Hadouken! And welcome to a very, very special episode of Poddywood. I am one of your selectable fighters, Steve Hester, and with me as always is...
You know what the really sad part about all of this is?
What?
Is the fact that you actually took time to write some kind of intro to the fact that we are actually doing a watch-along of Street Fighter this week.
No, I didn't write it. I just was just thinking about it as the music was playing.
I'm Andrew Roger Carson. I am the co-host / victim of this week.
Oh, now come on. You know you love Street Fighter just as much as I do. Don't even pretend that this is a hardship for you.
It's not. I'm sure I will glean as much entertainment out of it from the time that I lost £78 on it.
Sorry, what?
I will explain as the show progresses.
Okay, well, we'll come to that story later on.
Anyway, it's too warm today. What's going on? We're in September.
It just feels like it's warm and sticky and just there.
Yeah, and here we are to still deliver a show to you, cooped up in this little box-like room. And speaking of box-like rooms, we've got to talk about what's in the box from last week, where you actually had a nice movie to watch.
Yes, instead of all the usual disasters and horribleness and prison movies and rapes and murders and everything, I got to watch the surprisingly made in the year 2000 Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro movie Meet the Parents. And when I say surprisingly made in the year 2000, I mean I was really surprised that it was made in the year 2000. I thought it was later than that. And it's apparent when you watch it because there's jokes that are taking place on planes about bombs going off. And you think, no, that wouldn't be happening post 9/11. People going into an airport really, really easy. No, that wouldn't happen post 9/11 either. But anyway, I digress. You've got Ben Stiller as a guy called Greg Fokker. And as we find out later on in the end of the movie, that isn't actually his real first name. It is his real surname, though. And he is going off to, I think it's upstate New York, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
To meet his girlfriend's parents, played by Robert De Niro. And I forget, was it Blythe Danner?
Blythe Danner.
And it turns out that his prospective father-in-law, shock horror twist, used to be a member of the CIA. Used to test people to see if they were actually moles working for the company. And the whole movie is basically a comedy of errors and a comedy of manners, kind of farcical at times. And even though it may be listed down there's a book called like the 1001 most important movies that you need to see before you die or something like that. It's actually one of those movies that I don't like because a lot of the humor comes from situations which could very easily be avoided if someone just kind of talked for like 20 seconds.
Yes.
Like there's a scene where Robert De Niro is grilling Ben Stiller at they're getting fitted out for the suits for this wedding for Robert De Niro's other daughter, and he corners him in one of the changing rooms because he thinks he's been smoking grass. And it turns out he hasn't. It's his son's, but he doesn't know that. And it's one of those situations where it then leads to other jokes later on, but you're there thinking, no, if Ben Stiller had any kind of head on him, he would have gone, I'm sorry, I honestly don't understand what it is that you're talking about. Can you let me know? And then things could be rectified. And it's just things like that. It irritates me. It really does, because I see it in a lot of movies of this type. And you just think, no, talk. Get it out there. Yeah, it's just one of those movies I just wasn't kind of into.
This is actually kind of interesting because I watched it again myself, and it's that familiar comedy type of the wince comedy, as I call it.
Yeah.
There's something just really uncomfortable about these kind of movies where, you know, everything that can go wrong does go wrong for a character. It's like... Ricky Gervais in The Office, I guess, would be a good example of what wince comedy is.
Yeah, slightly cringy as well.
Everything about this film, you sit there, De Niro is fabulous because he always is. You know, this was his pre-Dirty Grandpa days.
Yeah, this was the peak just before he dipped down into the valley of shitty comedies.
Exactly. But, you know, he has this fantastic relationship with the cat.
Mr. Jinx.
That cat character's a real bastard in this movie.
Yeah.
He really is. But Ben Stiller is not as annoying as he would be in later movies, and I say that with all due respect, but it's just some of the characters that he played was just like really annoying.
One thing that I did notice about Ben Stiller, and I don't know if this was a conscious thing or not, but he tends to stare a lot. He doesn't tend to blink. He just seems to have this kind of like focused look in his eyes that is just kind of a little bit unwavering.
And I did notice in the very kind of last scene where Robert De Niro is actually watching from the secret teddy bear cam style thing, of how much Ben Stiller and Casey Affleck actually are kind of similar in their performance range.
Well, speaking of people that are similar in the performance range, Owen Wilson's also in it.
Yeah.
Now, like I said last week, I love Owen Wilson. I think he's great. He just seems so wonderfully laid back and chilled. But yeah, just in this, as soon as he came out, he was just like, "No, Owen, you're playing the exact same part that I've seen you do loads of times before, mate."
I think he's even more annoying in this.
Yeah,
because this is a character that is you're set up to hate, and he is such a condescending prick in this movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like the Jeremy Sisto effect in Waitress. You just want to reach through the screen and absolutely belt this guy.
Wow.
What was that? Your Owen Wilson impression?
Wow. He never said it in Loki. I was disappointed.
Maybe it's a different version of Owen Wilson in it.
Yeah, it
It's a
could be.
variant.
But yeah, I mean, you've got a very, very Randy Newman soundtrack. You've got some pretty good setup and payoffs, but there are a few moments, a few little Chekhov's gun moments, like the urn. As soon as the urn was mentioned, I knew that that was going to end up on the floor. Also, partly because I'd seen that in trailers. But yeah, it's one which is just obvious that it's going to happen.
The precariously placed urn on
Yeah.
a shelf that is not designed to hold an urn of your dead mother's remains.
Yeah. But bluntly, I kind of prefer Ben Stiller when he's doing things like Dodgeball. You know, that kind of more, I don't know, zany comedy. I hate to use the word zany, but it's the only thing that I can think of that can fit it. And it kind of come out a little bit towards the end of this one where he's trying to get into the airport and just the heightened reality of the people that work for the airline. I thought that was probably the funniest part of the movie, to be honest.
I'll agree. But yeah, give us Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder, Dodgeball. Those kind of like out there characters, even though he was majorly overshadowed in Tropic Thunder by both Tom Cruise and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
But, you know, he still held his own as Tug Speedman. Great action 80s name.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I can't really think of anything massively to add to it, really. I mean, it was a film.
Yes. And will it be any better in hindsight after we've watched Street Fighter today? We will find out later on. But in the meantime, I guess we've got to talk about some anniversaries.
We watch them again all of the time, or we get them on Prime for free. But we only know how old they are when we learn their anniversary.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Is that Jerry Maguire?
No, it's Brokeback Mountain.
Let's take that up again. Is that Brokeback Mountain?
No, it was Jerry Maguire.
Thank God for that. Okay, I was right the first time. Yes, so anniversaries this week. Oh, God, this is like show 13 all over again.
I know.
I'm telling you. Trust me, one day we will tell you the story of how bad this episode was to set up.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're going to throw you back to some anniversaries and we're going to go back to 25 years ago, Steve.
What do we have?
When Keanu Reeves and Morgan Freeman starred in Chain Reaction. Not a story about Diana Ross, but a movie by Andrew Davis that was Keanu's follow-on from Speed.
Was that the one where it was all like in loads of water? Or no, I'm thinking of, there was another movie where it was all like set during a storm, but I think that might have been Christian Slater.
That would be Hard Rain, edited by Gillian Hutching. Gillian mention, there we go.
I think I might have caught like a bit of it one night when it was on TV, but I think it was just skipping through the channels and just thought, meh, and moved on.
Yeah, it's one of those movies, you know, they've designed some kind of cold fusion thing that's going to supply energy for free throughout the world. The government suddenly decide to steal it. Can you trust Morgan Freeman or can't you? And Keanu Reeves is on the run with Rachel Weisz in tow, and that's practically your movie. But it was directed by The Fugitive's Andrew Davis, who, I can't remember, he did a movie after The Fugitive, and I know that he did our regular favourite, Under Siege. And he really did really great movies. I guess until you took him out of Chicago.
Yeah, that might be why Under Siege is a little, yeah.
Under Siege is Steven Seagal's best film. In all fairness, Bill Daly is probably sat at his computer now saying, no, it was executive decision. And I'm sure we're going to have that talk one day soon. But Chain Reaction was, it's an alright film. It's one of those ones that kind of shows up every now and again on like Channel 5 when you need to fill 2 hours in an evening.
We need to fill 2 hours in an evening. So that's why you get Morgan Freeman.
Yes. Chain Reaction is 25 years old this week. So let's go to something that's 20 years old and a bit more eventful. You either love it or you hate it. But we're going to talk about Moulin Rouge.
The Moulin Rouge? No.
You don't like it, or no, you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. I was bombarded too much by that version of Lady Marmalade that it just turned me off to the rest of the film.
Was that All Saints?
No, it was like Pink, Little Kim, Christina Aguilera, and then you had Missy Elliott at the end just reading out everyone's names like it's a school play.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I love Moulin Rouge, but I do have a little bit of hate for it as well. Because in a store that I once was in, one of the girls there, who will remain nameless, kept playing the soundtrack over and over and over again. And I fully relate to that song that you hate. I hate the entire soundtrack because of that instance. There's going too far, okay? And when you're playing the same CD all day, along with an Alicia Zatic CD.
God, no, there's a name from
nuts.
the past.
I know. They don't even remember they were in Alicia Zatic.
No.
That's how far back it was. But yes, but Moulin Rouge was released 20 years ago. It was a sizable hit for Baz Luhrmann, and we all had that Robbie Williams and Nicole Kidman song that came because of that.
Yeah, well, like you say, the least said about the bloody soundtrack, the better.
Yeah, that's bad that we actually talk about the soundtrack instead of it being an actual visual delight that is Moulin Rouge. But yeah, the movie's great. The soundtrack is torture these days. Sorry to say.
All right, then. So that's 2 films. What have we got on third?
2 films you haven't seen, and I'd be very amazed if you'd seen the third one. It's kind of obscure.
God.
But 15 years ago this week, Steve, a small movie called Accepted was released. That starred Jonah Hill. It starred Justin Long.
Right.
It also starred Blake Lively, a bunch of other people, and it was directed by Steve Pink, who some of you may know directed Grosse Pointe. Well, he was the writer of Grosse Pointe Blank, writer of High Fidelity, and the director of Hot Tub Time Machine.
Wasn't a big fan of High Fidelity, but Grosse Pointe Blank was absolutely brilliant.
How can you say that about High Fidelity?
I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan.
Well, fair enough. But Accepted, it was your basically high school slacker story. They get rejected by every school that he applies to, so he decides to create his own institution of higher learning. And basically all of these rejected people, it's your Animal House for 2006 generation. The movie was improvised quite a lot. A lot of the gags that were pitched by the actors on the day of shooting, and that kind of become a stable of comedy movies nowadays, where they're just throwing out what lines and we'll use the one that stick.
Yeah,
it's an all right movie. It's inoffensive. It's not going to rack up in the 1001 movies to see before you die by Steven Schneider.
Yep.
But if you're looking for a good bit of escapist fun that'll keep you occupied for an hour and a half, Accepted is that movie.
I haven't seen it, but I think I might have, if that makes sense. I haven't actually.
It's something that's been on in the background.
Yeah, I haven't actually sat down and watched it, but I've got a vague memory of it. But I'll be damned if I can remember what that vague memory is. If that makes any sense whatsoever, probably not.
Yeah,
but there you go.
It's not Rashomon. It's just your regular movie. But they are the anniversaries for this week.
Well, I guess with the anniversaries out of the way, we've only got one thing to do, haven't we?
Oh shit.
Round 1, fight!
Yeah, so basically what has happened here is every time that we have a guest-free week, and we do kind of have a guest-free week to kind of unwind because the amount of work that goes into sourcing the guests, writing up all the content, organising the guests to come on, doing the edit for Steve, stuff like that, we do need a week where we just need to relax a little. And with September and October starting to look incredibly busy on the guest front, more on that later, we decided let's try something different. We've done Get It Freshed in the past. We have introduced Poddywood After Dark into the main show for 1 week so we could talk about stuff that's in the news. So this week we decided, okay, let's kind of hold a poll as to... I knew it was coming. I even paused for that. I voted for Deep Rising because I'd talk about that movie enough that it does need its own episode one day. And Steve kind of mooted in with Street Fighter, the infamous Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't know how you would explain this movie, Steve.
It's an infamous Jean-Claude Van Damme movie tie-in of a video game, which was an absolute disaster, really, from start to finish, with so many different problems, and ultimately it released to very, very poor reviews. But there is something about it, and especially Raul Julia just chewing the scenery, that just makes it a joy to watch. So hence why we're here.
Yes, and because Steve kind of brought this up the other week on his Nominate 5, we couldn't help but start talking about it afterwards and saying, you know what, there is enough stuff about that movie that we could actually do this as a kind of tester. It's something that we may do again down the line. It depends on if we survive this. There's some personal stories around it. There's some hilarious stories behind it. And you're invited to kind of watch the movie along with us and try to determine whether it's art or arse.
If you want to get the full effect of this little watch along that we're going to be doing, then in a few moments you are going to hear this sound. When you do, pause this audio and start playing the movie. As soon as the Columbia TriStar logos disappear from your screen, hit play again, and then this commentary should be in sync. Now, please bear in mind that there will be slight differences between regional variations of the movie, as well as certain possible issues with encoding in different parts of the world. That is entirely out of our control, I'm afraid. So hopefully this should all line up perfectly. If not, blame your government.
Yes, for you people who are not watching Street Fighter, it's fine. We are going to make the show just as interesting. We're going to talk about the history behind this movie, some nice little factoids, and we will try to relate what is going on. So don't feel you have to skip this episode because you don't want to watch Street Fighter, like I probably would.
But for now, here's that noise.
And here we go.
Capcom and Columbia Pictures presents...
I love the way that Universal pretty much removed their entire logo from this planet. They even didn't want to be part of this movie either. And they were the original people. So,
well, just give you a little bit of a background, because the movie's called Street Fighter, but it's based on Street Fighter 2, but not actually based on Street Fighter 2. It's based on the fourth iteration of Street Fighter 2.
yes.
Super Street Fighter 2, the new challenges. Because Capcom were nothing if... they were desperate for your money back in the 90s.
Exactly. And currently now they're having a complete RoboCop rip-off by having all of these news channels flash up on screen. And we have the introduction of Ming-Na Wen playing Chun-Li. Who was, for many years, considered her career over from this when she actually did see this movie. Yeah. And if it wasn't for George Clooney basically saying, well, to be honest, it's not the worst thing, or something along those lines.
Well, it isn't
she
the
now
worst
looks
thing.
back favourably.
Yeah, so she should. Okay, before we go any further, I just want to say I unironically adore this movie. So if I say anything about it, I just want you to know I love this film. I will quite happily watch this film any day. It's Andy that's having to suffer through this.
Yeah, and the worst thing is I've seen it many times, and I still don't understand why I keep coming back to it. And there's just so much history behind this movie that we're going to kind of cover today. And obviously, you know, we have to talk that this was Raul Julia's last movie.
Yep.
Playing M. Bison in one of many casting misfires, really, that this movie has had when it came to honouring the characters. But we will get to that later.
Yeah.
There was an infamous Wilhelm scream also on that throw into that pit.
Is it Wilhelm or Wilhelm?
It can be whatever it wants.
Because I always thought it was Wilhelm.
Well, I'm sure the director Wilhelm anything else but a remake of this.
Yeah.
And there's an infamous part here. Obviously, M. Bison is like challenging these American GI or UN forces to fight. And the neck snap right there was cut out of the English version of this movie.
Oh, was it now? Because I know that there was a series of... Because you mentioned earlier that there was a series of edits, but they were all slight ones, weren't they?
Yes, well, the thing is, Capcom and the director Steven E. D'Souza, who we'll mention in more detail as we go along, always envisioned this movie as PG-13. And what happened is, and I did a bit of research on this, they submitted the movie, and it came back as an R rating, which is basically your adult, full of violence, etc. Now, what had happened a week before this movie was submitted to the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America, there was a school shooting.
Oh.
Right? Which usually triggers people at the MPAA, where it's like, oh God, this is supposed to be a family movie, but this is like ultra violent and so many guns, and we're going to give it an R. So they had to go back, they had to do a lot of editing on it to get it down to a PG-13. And when they submitted it, it came back as a G, which is the worst rating you can give to a movie that is aimed at teenagers, because no teenagers will watch a G. That's like a universal rating. Okay, so they went back and added in these scenes of Van Damme swearing in order to get it back up to a PG-13.
Is that the son of Habitch Bison's ass?
Yeah. Or as just said there, anytime, dickhead, we go live, like now. But yes, that was the true story behind the rating controversy, and it would just kind of have major ramifications going on. Which, for a movie where Van Damme was doing 10K of coke a week during filming, as well as having the infamous Kylie Minogue affair during filming, it's probably not the most shocking story.
No, because it was. I mean, you could probably look at the actual genesis of this movie, and that's probably the more shocking aspect of it, because it was shipped around, as far as I'm aware, it was shipped around by Capcom around Hollywood, and it eventually landed in the lap of Mr. D'Souza, who's one of those people who was just all over action movies in the 80s and 90s. What did he do? He did Running Man, Die Hard, is he Commando as well?
Ricochet.
In
its full aspect ratio.
Yes. Sorry, every time we've talked about Ricochet, it just makes me think of an Irishman. Hello, my name's Ricochet.
Release the Mulcahy cut. We're going for it. Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, there is a story I do want to get into in that, and it is a bit of a long one, which I will kind of interject in here. But the main story that I want to get out of the way now is obviously Van Damme was at the height of his fame, but also at the height of his addictions at this point.
Yeah.
And there was a very publicized, oh, look, there's Vega. We'll get onto that in a minute.
That's going to be a running theme throughout the show. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yes.
It's the new, this is for another episode, isn't it?
This is for another episode. But Steven D'Souza said that the drugs were taking a serious toll on the actual filming of the movie. So the studio actually hired a wrangler for Jean-Claude Van Damme, which turned out to be a huge mistake, because he kind of fell in love with that celebrity lifestyle that Van Damme got, and he ended up partying with him. So Van Damme would end up calling in sick, he'd end up leaving the set when he shouldn't do, he'd show up late or not at all, and they had to kind of film other scenes to kind of make up for lost time for a movie that was also having to shift around because of Raoul's illness, which we will cover also.
But I think there was, if I'm right, and I'm basing this off a video that I saw on YouTube.
So there's an awesome joke on screen at the moment there. I couldn't help but laugh. There's a moment where Sagat says, "Nobody in this town tells me what to do," and then overhead there's a helicopter saying that there's a curfew. It gets me every time. Apologies. Carry on.
No, I was going to say, because Steven E. D'Souza apparently got the job to... there was this video by a guy called Mac McMuscles on YouTube, and he looks at the making of the Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Yes. And if you do like the game, just check out the background here. Notice that? That's from the Sagat level.
That's a reclining Buddha.
Nice and little touch.
Yeah, you just also missed right at the front there, Benny the Jet Urquidez.
Oh. Yes, who was world karate champion and actually trained them to fight
There he is, just over his shoulder. He was also, I can't remember what the name of the bad guy was in Grosse Pointe Blank. But he was the guy that got stabbed in the neck in the corridor fight.
Yes.
But yes. Anyway, but as far as I can gather, Stephen E. D'Souza fought to get the director gig on this because he thought, might as well get paid. But he had to basically produce the first draft of the script over a weekend.
Yes.
Which is
That's
insane.
a rumor going around, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even do that. It takes me at least a good 8 days to get a good first draft.
Yeah.
And I love the way the ping pong balls actually have a boing sound effect.
I don't think that those guns fire ping pong balls there, though.
No. But an interesting kind of thing here, and I know we're kind of straying off the actual scenes that are in front of us, which is going to be hard. But Byron Mann, who played Ryu, or Ryu, if you're Damon Chapper, auditioned 6 times for the role of Ryu. And originally it was Capcom who wanted Kenji Sawada, legend that will show up in this movie very shortly. They wanted him to play Ryu, and he couldn't speak a word of English, and they couldn't even dub a word of English over him either. So they basically said, well, he can't be Ryu. He doesn't have the chemistry as much as Byron Mann has with Damon Chapper, who plays Ken. So they made up this character of Captain Sawada, which was ironic, really. And apparently Ken Sawada was not very happy with the situation. I don't think he and Byron Mann actually got on because of it. But to be honest, for me, Ken Sawada is the standout of this movie for me.
Well, for me, it's the gentleman right there in the hat and the cloak, Raul Julia, who is well known in this movie. He was suffering from terminal cancer. I can't remember the exact nature of it. I think it was stomach cancer. I could be wrong.
Yes. Had an infamous shot there on the screen, real World War II footage of someone getting shot.
Yeah, I don't even think that was World War II. I think that was like Vietnam or something. Because I'm sure I've seen that.
That's surprising in a movie that the MPAA basically rated, and that survived.
Yeah. But Raul Julia, he chews the scenery in this movie like a termite, but he is the standout in this for me.
Raul Julia is full on Richard III, right?
Without question.
Shakespearean on this, like you wouldn't believe. But he obviously did so much work on the research, right? Because as you notice, he kind of has these Mussolini hand gestures. He's got that elusiveness of a Pablo Escobar. And if you notice, like through all those places, he's got loads of art, which is a throwback to Hitler as well.
Yeah.
And the movie is dedicated to him. It was the last movie. He took it because his kids loved Street Fighter. And he wanted to do a nice family-friendly movie because, obviously, Adam's Family was a bit too violent.
Really?
Yes.
Never thought of Adam's Family as a bit too violent, but
yes.
Which is interesting, really, considering that this movie actually has people hitting each other.
Yes. But there was, funnily enough, and we're kind of at the Vega and Ryu fight here. In the cage, which isn't really a fight, but it's a huge build-up. There's 2 great stories about this. One, because of the all shift around in Van Damme being unreliable and Raul Julia's illness, they didn't actually get to rehearse a lot of the fighting and stuff like that until hours before these scenes were shot. Right? There's a big controversy over it that resulted in a big, huge flare-up. So you will see here, while Vega is showing off his face.
Well, before you carry on, speaking of Vega's face, I remember watching this with my mum. I think when it came out in video in about 95. And she didn't know anything about the characters other than the fact I wanted her to play on my SNES with me. And she saw Vega and she was convinced that when that mask came off, it was going to be someone who was horrible. But no.
She doesn't think so.
No.
But anyway, you see this knife? Okay,
That's not a knife.
that is a real knife. That is not a prop. As much as it may look one, it is a real knife that he had to do this with because they had to improvise this hours beforehand. There was a Thai stuntman who taught Byron how to do this. So he's really swinging a real knife around there instead of a prop. It was highly dangerous at the time. And the other story here, which is infamous, is it's not only Capcom that had a say in this movie, it was Hasbro also.
Yeah, because they were producing the toy line for it, weren't they?
Well, the funny story is that Hasbro were basically looking to get rid of their stacked up G.I. Joe toy line, right? Which was basically not selling anymore. So they wanted to recondition the characters to actually be as Street Fighter characters and just shill all this backlog. Now, this tank that comes through the wall here is an actual old G.I. Joe toy that they wanted featured in the movie so that they could sell it.
That right there is basically a doctored tank.
Yes.
Okay.
So the only reason this tank exists in this movie was to sell it off as a toy.
And
in the Street Fighter range.
Right there, you've got the voice of Adrian Cronauer. The real Adrian Cronauer. Oh,
and
there
right
he is!
Here, hang on, you've got the voice of Connor.
Oh, right. Now, but some people may think that because he's native Japanese, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes. So okay.
He was an actor in Japan. He was in Mishima. Last thing I ever saw him in was a movie called Happiness of the Katakoris. But he was an actor. He just cannot speak English.
No. But then again, the first thing which pops to mind is the old guy in Temple of Doom. The village chieftain mystic or whatever that they see, and he's got this kind of pausing, stilting speech, and then he carries on talking. And in those little pauses, you had Steven Spielberg just off camera who was saying, "Just repeat these lines phonetically." Kenya Sawada can't even do that.
Phonetically, yeah. The strange thing is, his voice is dubbed.
I know.
It's dubbed badly. How bad was his real voice if the dub is shockingly bad?
They could have taken
you know
just all the time they wanted to, but no.
Right. This film was budgeted at $35 million, right? And Capcom specifically wanted Van Damme to play Guile, right? Because of Belgian actor to play an American GI is obviously, it's fine in Capcom's eyes.
Could have been Steven Seagal.
He took up $8 million of this $35 million budget, right? Raul Julia took a sizable chunk of it as well, and this is the reason why a lot of the extra characters in it are not well known. They're not well known actors at the time. Some of them have gone on to great things. Some of them have been Ken Sawada. But Stephen D'Souza actually deferred his salary to pay for this cast.
Wow,
right? That takes some balls, right? It really does. The thing is, this film, as much as it's really geared as this terrible movie that is derided by fans, it was a commercial success.
Oh yeah,
right?
They make an absolute fortune every time that this is shown on TV. Capcom are more than happy with this.
On its first release, theatrically, it made domestically $33 million, just $2 million shy of its budget. But internationally, it made $66 million, right? Which is like double. So it's more than doubled its budget, right? So it is financially a successful movie. And for all the right reasons. Raul Julia was praised for his performance. He really is that good in it.
Mm-hmm.
And while, Van Damme, he was not easy to work with due to his ego and problems at the time. I spoke with a member or somebody who worked on this movie recently, who'll go unnamed, and they were telling me Van Damme apparently had this presidential suite in the hotel. He had his own personal gym in there and everything, and he refused to leave it until he was ready, right? He wouldn't come down and hang out with anyone else. When he did show up, he had alcohol on set, and he would take hours to actually shoot his scenes. And conversely, everybody loved Kylie Minogue. Apparently, she was incredibly generous. She was really professional, on time. And apparently, from what I hear, she hired a club for everyone, and she ended up buying drinks for the entire cast and crew.
Did she make them all do the locomotion, though?
Probably at the time. Well, this was the year she did that Confide in Me music video, so she was starting to do the change. I don't want to link that to Van Damme's coke use, but
no.
And Van Damme turned down Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat for this.
Yeah, and
that must have been some good fucking cocaine.
This is well known as the second worst video game movie that didn't involve Uwe Boll. And the first one was Super Mario Brothers, which that deserves just to be left on the shelf somewhere. But it's amazing how much love that this movie has gathered over the years. And
I'm amazed I'm having as much fun revisiting it now, to be honest. I think I'm just looking at it through like a director's eyes.
Yeah.
And just, seeing, oh, look, T-Hawk.
T-Hawk. Right. Okay, let's get into the characters. So, the original game was released with 8 playable characters, but then there were 3 boss characters. There was Vega. No, there was 4. There was Vega, Balrog, Sagat, and M. Bison. Now, there were some issues because the names were changed around. Like, M. Bison was originally the name of the boxer character, but when it was brought over to the US, they thought that was too close to Mike Tyson, so they swapped a few of the names around. So, right here and now, we're seeing the US version of things. So, when it was released on the home consoles, you had Street Fighter 2. Then you had Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Then you had Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. Then you had Super Street Fighter 2. Now, the main difference between the 4 games, the first 3, is there was some gameplay tweaks just to introduce some balances, and then you could play as the 4 boss characters. But then in Super Street Fighter, they introduced 4 new characters, including Cammy, T-Hawk, DJ, who's working for M. Bison, and
Fei Long.
Now, Fei Long is the only character who doesn't appear in this movie. Now, why
couldn't they have just given that to Ken Sawada?
That's the whole point. Why create a character called Sawada when you have a character called Fei Long, which would have completed the set? Makes no sense.
Well, you want to talk about sense? All right. Here we go. Let's talk about this cast. Okay, I'm going to do it right here and now. This is how bad a movie can get it wrong. Okay, so we have Ryu, or Ryu, however you say it.
It is Ryu.
In the game, he's a Japanese American.
Yeah.
Ryu. And he's played by a Chinese American. You got E. Honda in the game, he's Japanese. In the movie, he's a Samoan American.
Yep.
You got Blanca is a Brazilian, but he's played by an Australian. You've got Guile, who's American, played by a Belgian, obviously. Ken in the game, he's Japanese-American, and he's played by a Mexican-American in the movie. Chun-Li is Chinese-American in the game. Let me get it out, Steve. And she's played by
you can tell him it,
a Chinese actress. Yeah, just wait. Now it starts to get even crazier. Zangief, Russian, played by a Polish-German. You've got Dalsim, who's Anglo-Indian, played by an Indian. So that's closest they've got so far. T-Hawk is American-Indian in the game. He's played by an Irish-Filipino in the movie. Cammy is British, played by an Australian. DJ is a Jamaican, played by a Dominican Republic. Right? Balrog's the only character they've got it right who's African-American in both the movie and the game. But then you've got Vega, who's a Spaniard, who's played by an American-Indian. You've got Sagat, who is Thai, who's played by a Cherokee. And Bison's supposedly British, and he's played by a fucking Puerto Rican. How could you get that much casting backwards?
It is like they just threw a dart.
Oh, look at this saucy look from Sagat. Sagat gave the sauciest look to Ken in that shot I've ever seen in a movie.
Now that we've escaped, maybe we can get a little intimate later.
It comes to thing when Ken Sawada is the bloody character in the entire movie.
Yeah. Guile's dead. What on earth will happen now for the rest of the movie? It would be a shame if it wasn't a double cross.
Yes. But yes, in talking before, you were mentioning about Benny Urquidez, who was in that last scene doing the prison break. And I do have to say, how did Sagat actually see Ken shoot Guile when Sagat was facing the back of the truck and Guile was shot at the front of it?
I don't
I don't know.
actually think the continuity was high on the list of demands for this movie. Because if I'm right,
cares?
I think it had something like a 6-month turnaround from pre-production to release.
Oh, it was aggressive. It was
Yeah.
an aggressive shoot. And obviously the stunt coordinator was Charlie Personi. I think I got his name right. And apparently he only took the job as long as he actually had ample time to train the cast. And obviously with Benny Urquidez was training them for the fights, but he had no knowledge of video game fighting at all, especially the Street Fighter series. And halfway through shooting, they realized that all of these characters had different fighting styles.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
you look at the game, you got sumo for E Honda, you've got Shotokan karate for Ken and Ryu, which is a made-up form of karate. You've got actual street fighting as some of the characters. You've got, I think, DJ style was capoeira.
Yep.
Zangief was Russian wrestling. So there's all
Yep.
these different types that are going
But
on.
they weren't trained as that halfway through the film, and then suddenly, with that, and obviously the major heated debate between Charlie Personi and Steven D'Souza came to a point where Charlie Personi was saying to them, well, they realized they hadn't put all the special moves of the characters into the fight scenes. As D'Souza was like, well, why not? And Personi was like, well, they look stupid and unrealistic. And this is where things got really heated because D'Souza was trying to get 10 extra days of shooting, and it got quite heated, apparently.
That doesn't surprise me, because it sounds like this was just a breeding ground for antagonism.
And the stupid thing is, Capcom loved this movie on release. And Capcom should have kept as far away from a movie set as possible. I mean, they co-financed the movie, but they had such a tight rein over every aspect of production that had to meet their approval. As I mentioned, they mandated the release date for December 94. They wanted a Christmas release with it. And this is what instigated the aggressive filming schedule. They always wanted Van Damme as Guile. And
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. I mean, sorry. Just listening to that absolutely wonderful Richard III type speech from
Yeah. Oh, he nails
Raul
it.
Julia. Then, and then Zangief at the end. That was beautiful. I love how earnest he is with it all.
It is. But yeah, it's. I mean, production on this movie was 6 days behind by the 10th day. That's how much trouble this movie was in very early. And, the producers kind of confronted Steven D'Souza about it. And he did the old, we're all taught about the old John Ford trick, as soon as someone comes up, she says, oh, you're vastly behind, you'll just tear a page out of the script, And apparently he did that, But there was the kind of Street Fighter curse, right? And there was a major curse around this movie, which I'll talk about here while we're trying to decipher why Chun-Li has this ninja gear in her news van.
I'm not gonna lie. I have no personal objections.
Okay, that's fine. So one of the major things, the reason why it moved from Thailand to Australia, because it was shot between two countries. Halfway through, it ended up being shifted to Australia. The main reason why is because the local power station in Thailand went down. And it was because of the immense amounts of electricity that was powering this production. Obviously, in Thailand, there was great incentives to film there. You get the great tax incentives to come and film a movie of this magnitude in Thailand. And plus, you've got all that beautiful natural scenery around as well.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. But they basically ended up saying, right, oh, go, to save money and try and get us back on schedule, we're going to shift the entire movie to Australia, which it really helped. Because, Kylie Minogue was initially cast, but because of the Australian Actors Guild really wanted an Aussie in the movie as a major character, which is also probably why the Blanca character, when he's in human form, I'll just say that for now, when he's in human form, he's an Australian. But Stephen D'Souza apparently was on a flight on the way to Thailand. He'd seen Kylie Minogue in People magazine and apparently invited her to come and audition the next day, and she got in. So obviously when it transferred over to Australia, that was a huge benefit because Kylie was huge in like Australia. So I'm sure that doors were kind of open to them at the time. But it wasn't the only curse that they had. I mean, the major problem in ripping out the pages of the script to kind of meet them came to bite them in the arse later on when they were editing the movie, when they discovered that vital scenes were actually missing from the movie. And fight scenes were kind of lacking any cohesion and stuff like that. So they basically had to fly the sets out to Australia. Or I think it was Vancouver at the time. I think it was being done post in Vancouver, so they had to do reshoots over there. So they shipped these entire sets over. But there was... The filming conditions in Thailand were horrible. And it's not the only movie that has suffered from that. It's hot, it's humid.
Yeah, I can imagine. While we're recording this, feels exactly the same, hot and humid. So only
Yes.
you can only just imagine what it'd be like trying to film there.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone was losing weight really quickly, you know, and in Australia they all managed to kind of put this weight back on because everyone was falling ill, especially from the food. The food was apparently incredibly terrible. The military in Thailand right at this time, they'd closed all the roads because they were fearing a coup at the time in the country. So all of the cast and crew were kind of brought in every day by these high-speed boats and stuff like that. So they would arrive on set soaking wet every day. The building actually for this scene, we're seeing, obviously, Guile is resurrected. He's alive.
Yeah.
But how long was he seriously lying on that goddamn bed before Chun-Li showed up?
You get the feeling like, no, just put me here. I will be here fine. When she comes, I'll leap up and surprise her. What? He's turned
Leave me here.
Yes.
I'm on a come down.
Yes. This table is nice and cold. Yes.
Yeah. But apparently this set in particular that was used for the Allied Nations HQ, and this was shot in Thailand, it had a tin roof that was kind of riddled with holes. As you can see all this plastic sheeting up there, there's a reason. So it was incredibly loud when it was raining on the roof, and when it was sunny, it would shine through the holes in the roof. You know, and entire scenes were cut out from here, from this section of the movie, which is probably why it lacks a bit of coherence at some point.
Yeah, things just kind of happen, don't they?
Yeah.
Like she's
exactly.
escaping right now, and what a woman, says Van Damme, as Chun-Li vanishes. But things are just kind of happening, and they're not really linking in properly.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were secretly happy to move out of Thailand because, you know, there was a crew member who required medical attention. They got a skin irritation that was caused by contact with the water in the river that they were filming next to. The line producer had a heart attack and never returned to set, probably just seeing like, oh shit, I've got to get off this movie. How can I get a heart attack? The producer,
we got a little Easter egg coming up here. Sorry to interrupt. Little Easter egg.
Oh, is it the barrel?
Chun-Li's going into the barrel, and it says Capcom on top of it.
Oh, there we go. How clever of them.
They got to get their nodding.
Yeah, well. You know, the actual producer who was kind of in charge of the Bond completion for this movie, and obviously people in the business will know what that means, but he was actually not accustomed to driving on the other side of the road in Australia, I believe, and he collided with a bus.
Where was he from? Because Australia drives on the same side of the road as the UK. It's one of the few countries that has a left-hand drive.
He probably would have been from America, but knowing this, he probably was supposed to be from America, and they cast him as a bloody Brazilian. Plus, when they did move to Australia, one of the actors in this movie, who shall remain nameless, was busted at Australian customs for possessing steroids.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we don't want to stir the legal tanks by trying to work out who that was. Speculate on your own time.
Yes, on your own time.
In Australia as well, because I have to put it in somewhere. They were working on the now infamous Street Fighter, the movie, the game. So what basically...
One of the worst rated games ever by PlayStation Magazine.
It's not as bad as you think. It is bad. It is bad. It is nowhere near as much fun to play as the main thing. But effectively, you had Capcom looking at Mortal Kombat and then thinking, ooh, what we need to do video capture of our stars doing their moves and then put that into a game. And so what would happen is you had the company who wasn't Capcom. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they were down in Australia doing all the video capture, which was proving difficult because with Mortal Kombat, you had actual martial artists doing the moves, and so things look kind of real. Here you had actors who weren't fully trained in a lot of the places in the martial arts that they needed to do, and some of them didn't even know how to say the names of the special moves, like Tatsumaki Senpukyaku, which is what Ryu says as he does his spinning kick, or Shuriken as he does his dragon uppercut. But one person was missing because they went through cast member by cast member by cast member, got them in, did the motion capture, recorded lines of dialogue, with the exception of the actor who plays T-Hawk.
Right, okay.
Because he had already left. He'd wrapped his scenes and had already left, so they basically came to knock on his trailer door. There was nobody there. So they got one of the programmers of the game to come in and dress up in one of those Bison soldier outfits that you just saw there. Take the box of Bison dollars up to the table. And his name is Blade. The character's name is Blade, and he only exists within that version of the game. And there were actually...
Him and Captain Sawada in that game.
Oh, yeah. I think, Sawada was in it. No Fei Long yet again. Fei Long didn't even make it into the video game.
That's actually interesting. I didn't actually know that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
There are also two versions of the movie game. There was one which was released on the Saturn, and then there was a more improved version that came out later on the PlayStation. It still wasn't good, regardless of which version that you play, but the later iteration of it is far more playable, especially when compared to the original coin-op version from the arcades.
I got a question for you.
Shoot from the hip, Eddie. It's always been your style.
Why is Guile a colonel in the movie?
When he's a captain in the game.
He's a captain in the game?
He's a captain in the game.
Even I knew that.
Yeah.
But is it just because they thought it was hilarious how the guy dubbed Sawada as Colonel?
I don't know. We're so picking on that poor guy, and it's like...
I love him. I think he's amazing. I want to cast him now. It's great.
It's just because I still cannot believe that was the dubbed version.
I was shocked when I heard it myself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, now this is leading up to one of your favourite jokes.
The greatest joke in a movie of all time. I know it's coming in a moment.
Yeah.
I want to talk... Another thing to notice about this film, Jay Trevere, who plays Vega in this movie, as you notice, all of his dialogue is said off screen.
Yeah.
And it's the main reason being that he could not actually speak English pretty good. That's just like me saying that sentence. He couldn't say it pretty well. But all of his stuff was recorded offline. But did you know that the role was initially offered to Fabio?
I can see that. They
actually wanted Fabio for it, which I don't know if it's, in hindsight, I mean, it's perfect for the character.
Yep.
But it's Fabio. And the only way you could, beat him in a game is if you, threw a seagull at his face. It is the greatest joke in
here we
any
go. Here we go.
movie.
This is it. They're watching the truck full of explosives roll towards the tent on a TV screen.
No one is going to explain to us who is actually holding the camera that is filming the three main characters. When the cameraman is actually there. And who is filming this shot? Right? But here it is. The greatest line. They look at the truck. It's spiraling towards them. They look back at the screen. It's coming towards them. Quick. Change the channel. The greatest joke. That is the joke that made me and you friends.
Yeah.
I remember when we both came out with that at the same time. It was like, okay, that is it. We can work with this.
Oh dear.
That's an impressive explosion though for a movie in '94.
That was probably most of their budget on that explosion, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe they just invited Herb Gaines and Richard Mirisch to the set.
It just gave them a box of cigars and said, "Just you do what you do."
Sneaky's like, I'm going to have this story on my gravestone one day. But yes, it has, for a movie that has so many news camera angles but no explanation of how all of this footage was actually filmed.
No.
They didn't have drones back in the day. You know, it's really quite something. I do want to actually cover here the fact that it was a sizable hit. And did you actually know that in 2003, Van Damme almost made a sequel to this?
I did hear something about that, yeah.
Yes, and Damon Chapper and Byron Mann were apparently in talks to come back. Dolph Lundgren was rumoured for a role, which I'm saying he probably was coming in as Bison. He's got the chin for it and the stock. I reckon he would have come back.
Those would have been some pretty big acting shoes to fill, though.
Yes, and but Kylie Minogue, funnily enough, was being recast with Holly Valance,
who went on to do Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive,
yeah, instead.
Yes. The only good thing about Dead or Alive, that's one episode we'll have to do at one point. If I go silent during the Holly Valance scene, you'll know why.
Yes, well, yeah, what you do with the Holly Valance scene, that is in the privacy of your own room.
Yes. That was just a skin flick, that movie. It really was, for Holly Valance.
You and I are also fans of Mortal Kombat, the movie. Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it on the show a few weeks ago that the actor who played Kano, remind me of his name?
Trevor Goddard. Or Aidan Callahan, as I call him.
Oh, yes, because you said he looks like the spit of him, and he does.
He is.
But he basically made the character of Kano, I think he turned him Australian.
Yeah.
And the makers at the time, Midway, loved that so much that they incorporated that into the game. Now, with this...
The timer of the budget down.
The timer of the budget running down to the amount of cocaine that... Yes. It keeps dropping by an hour.
If Van Damme's not on camera, that budget is... Yes. If Van Damme's not on camera, that dial's going down like flames.
Well...
But yeah, sorry. You were saying.
We've just got a brilliant Sawada moment coming up here. So I'm just going to wait until...
Every moment with Sawada is brilliant. I love Van Damme.
Here we go.
It's impossible to get in through the air. Connor.
Yeah. If Jean-Claude Van Damme was on cocaine, he must have been on some kind of sedative, because there's no way that you can deliver that line without... at that kind of low level, he sounds like he's been drugged.
To
a man must be
sounded perfect.
Insane. Dude, come on. But yeah, they gave a lot of the characters surnames in this one. Like Ryu Hoshi, that was introduced. Chun-Li Zhang, that was introduced. Ken Masters, and Ken Masters was the only one that actually stuck. A lot of the others have pretty much...
Cammy White did it as well.
Cammy White, yep. But most of the others have pretty much been entirely disregarded by Capcom as they've been moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's that thing of like, we can't just have them with one name. They've got to have a bit of extra personality to them.
They couldn't do it in the writing, but, they just stick a surname on there.
I'm sure we are coming up in just a moment to the infamous M. Bison's private lair scene.
Oh, it's my favourite.
Yeah. But this torture chamber just has skeletons in it.
I know.
When was the last time they tortured anyone?
The thing is, if they were going to leave them in there, that would just make such a stink. You wouldn't want to work in there as a torturer.
Do you reckon they'd still be there under M. Bison's giant shopping precinct?
With the food court goes here.
He seems like a guy who would kind of, get sentimental about, place that he's like murdered loads of people. Yeah. So I think he'd just keep it. Here we go. Them costumes and the introduction of the infamous Ryu and Ken Colors. Yes. And look in the background there. There's the wave.
There's the
from
tsunami wave from the from the bathhouse.
See, I know my stuff. But yeah, as I was saying, Van Damme was actually going to remake this movie, and apparently it just ended up going turnaround, then kind of abandoned. And then obviously we ended up with Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, which is the only Street Fighter movie worse than Street Fighter. And apparently Van Damme was offered to return as Guile in that movie, and he turned it down. And that's probably one of the best decisions Van Damme has ever made.
Oh, without question. I haven't actually seen that one. I've seen a lot of video game movies. I haven't seen them all. Pretty much anything which has Uwe Boll's name on it, I've avoided like the plague. But even stuff like that, I just heard about it and thought, oh God, this sounds like an absolute... This is a car crash of a movie, but it's an enjoyable one. It's cheesy and schlocky and kind of knows it is and stares into the skid. That thing just looked like it was just an... It looked like it was like a tornado hitting a puppy home or something like that.
And then we get one of the most respected actors in the entire movie of Simon Callow just showing up for this one scene. The same year that he did 4 Weddings and a Funeral. He's here doing this little role in Street Fighter. And which leads to this amazing speech that I was chatting to Aidan about this movie just before that we were actually going to do this this kind of watch along and discussion. And he mentioned about this scene, was like, you can tell he must be on coke on this because the amount of cutaways while he's making this giant speech, there's no way he got it all out in one take.
Oh God, if that's the case, if that's the basis for having lots of cuts, then what the hell do you think happened in Taken 3?
Yeah.
Where he's trying to get over the fence.
Yeah, you see all of these faces of these troops while Van Damme is talking to them here, and look at all of these kind of reactions. Right, apparently, from what I hear, to actually get these reactions, they actually screened Street Fighter the movie in front of them. And all of them were just seeing their careers. Look at them. They're all like, what the fuck? I didn't need the money that bad.
No, what have I done?
I could have sold drugs. I could have moved to Salford. I could have gone anywhere.
Oh no, there we go. Salford's getting a battering again.
Look, this one's angry. Like, she's disappointed. Simon Callow's like, oh
God.
Call Mike Newell immediately. But Sawada is somewhere in this crowd. Oh, look, we're moving to Australia. And now everyone's like really happy.
We're going to be there. We're going to go surfing. We're going to throw shrimps on Barbie.
So let's all go to the Thai massage parlor first. Yay!
Yes. That is...
Oh, yeah, there's an infamous story.
That is a rumour that Thai massage parlors apparently were very popular.
It's not a rumour. It's true.
Is that... Oh, that one's true, is it?
Yeah, apparently producers and people behind the movie had to kind of step in because they were taking the piss with these massages they were getting.
I'm sorry, I love that shot. There's a shot there of just who must be like the Allied Nations secretary's secretary, just kind of walking along holding a shoe with a worried expression. It's just.
But the thing is, she's only holding one shoe.
I know.
Which means she's wearing the other one. But why? And are we actually going to get into the talk here of why they're going in on boats?
It was something to do with the fact that they weren't allowed to fly helicopters in there. But in terms of
the Thai
production,
government, yeah. The Thai government basically said, no, we are not allowing you to use this airspace. So they devised this thing, and to be honest, that looks like a G.I. Joe toy. That's a G.I. Joe toy, that they've had built for it.
She's still holding the shoe.
Now. Yeah, she's got her other shoe now. You can put them back on, love. You're drenched. But now that they're all going off to battle and using basically every toy line, all the ships are different, so that is definitely trying to shill a G.I. Joe.
Sure, a couple of those boats that were featured were like Vietnam era machines. Oh, and here we go. Here we got the infamous Bison Boudoir scene.
Yes.
And Chun-Li's in the closest approximation to her in-game outfit.
Yes, but just with a different colour.
Yeah.
This scene is just so cheesy, and it has one of the greatest build-ups to one line. And apparently Ming-Na Wen is fully aware of how infamous this line has become. I reckon she gets it said to her all the time.
And you will notice that he never, even though he took the hat off then, you don't see him without the hat on. Without the hat off, I should say.
Very true.
Nice.
But I mean, the set design on this room is amazing, I've got to admit.
Yeah.
He's got a cocktail shaker in his bedroom.
And he just shakes it so laconically, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, you've got to have the comforts. But it's like, he's obviously had all of this stuff made for him. But check out those drinks, he's made them in 30 seconds.
Well, the thing is, everything was all pre-mixed in the mixer.
Yes.
The day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. I love that line. He delivers it so sincerely as well. Even though his performance is over the top, he just delivers that line just so straight down the middle. Oh, God, it's such a waste.
Yeah, I have no idea who the supposedly torture master is. He's a big guy. He looks Australian, so I'm guessing they shot this in Australia. He's got that Australian outback style look.
He kind of looks like the guy from Commando.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The bad guy in Commando. I can't remember his name.
Wes. Wes was who he was in Mad Max 2. Vernon Wells.
Vernon Wells, yes.
Yes. But yeah. And with so many characters here, obviously we've got Grande Bush from Die Hard, one of the Agent Johnsons.
Yep. No relation.
Yes, no relation. Oh, look at that chandelier.
It's beautiful.
It's just all human bones. There's...
He's got on that... Just to press the button, he's got the sex soundtrack on go.
This guy's got the Wonderful World of Sex Volume 7 already lined up.
Oh, and the
John Wayne Gacy painting,
yeah, with the hat on. There's your Hitler
he's got the
connection.
mood lighting. Yeah, he's got the mood lighting ready. This guy's been dying for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that makes me laugh here is how paranoid they must have been about this scene, and I will explain to you in just a second when the fight kind of kicks off between the two of them. Oh my God. This is actually hilarious.
It's wonderful, isn't it? This is why I love this movie so much.
It is just shockingly bad. Oh, yeah, he's getting aggressive. He's pissed off that the music and everything else hasn't worked.
Yes.
So
I gave you cocktails and mood lighting. What more do you want from me?
Let me show you my impressive Bison bedsheets.
Yes. Available to buy at the food court.
Where all the major chains want in. But, he has everything is just stylized after himself.
Like that fireplace behind him has got the same skull shape as the logo.
Oh, it's just genius. It's there's something here that I kind of noticed the other day, and I thought, okay, I'm going to bring this up
All right,
because
then,
I
shoot.
can imagine how paranoid they were about this scene. Obviously, she's going to break free from this kind of rubber
With one of
handcuff
her
type thing.
screams from the game.
Yep.
Yep.
Boom. Oh, there's a move from the game. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Giving it a roll. Right. Wait for it when the kind of light smashes in a minute.
Where you can almost see one of the production crew
Oh,
behind it.
fire
Not
extinguisher there. There you go.
quite. Was that? I missed that then. There was a fire extinguisher.
There's a fire extinguisher behind that light fixture in case it's smashed. That's how paranoid they were. And the fire extinguisher was well in shot. Yeah, I kind of noticed that the other day. I was like, wow, that's how paranoid they must have been about this movie. But the strange thing is like the Dalle Sim character and the Blanca character kind of really get forgotten about for an entire
do for
portion
most
of this
of it.
movie.
I think the main problem is, what do you actually do with them? Because in terms of the narrative of the game, that before I carry on, that is a great crossfade. The kind of the fireplace blows up and then it crossfades to his to Bison's face smiling. It's brilliant.
Look, hang on a minute. Just for some strange reason, Guile has packed his home movies into the most armored boat on the planet.
Yeah,
like,
this is my
must have
invisible
thought,
boat.
I'm going to war, but I am going to take my personal DVD collection of happy moments with me, so I can play it for no apparent reason other than to remind people that this character is in the movie.
Look at that rear projection there through the canopy of his boat. That is shocking.
That is terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, there's very little that you could actually do with the characters of Dalle Sim and Blanca, because they are the two. They're the two strangest characters out of the game, because in the storyline of the game is that Blanca was abandoned in the jungles of South America and was effectively brought up by eels, electric eels, so that's how he can conduct electricity. Oh. And the ending of the game is him reuniting with his mum.
I've got a ton of those cassette tapes. The fact that he's just like entered it into a regular cassette holder, and we're going to get this flashback here of Blanca. Even though he's wearing the Brazilian badge upside down on his uniform. And then we cut to basically Jason Momoa auditioning for the Hulk in 77. It is!
It is, yeah.
Look, that's got Momoa written all over it. And then you've got a Mario reject who's playing like this big bulky guard over in the corner. Like, yeah, don't do that. Yes, I'll nod instead. But yeah, I mean, the guy who was playing Dalle Sim, Roshan Seth, very respected kind of English Indian actor. Yep. But he had no idea of who he was playing at all. And apparently there's a scene that is kind of missing from the movie that they had him wear a skull cap. Okay, so that in one scene he kind of pulls his hair out in anger, right? And he didn't know why. And he would question him saying, what is going on with the character? What's happening? And never get any answers. And apparently he just stopped asking and was like, okay, whatever. Just go with it. And that's why the character makes no sense at some point. And yeah, he kind of falls into these chemicals later on, which we're guessing is what gives him his
stretchy limbs,
stretchy arms, power that we'll never see. And he's lost all his hair in like record time. But then you've got to kind of ask, okay, but why are you wearing face paint?
Yeah. Didn't they put in a line, and we'll get to it in a bit, but didn't they put in a line saying that he shaved his head in, like, repentance for the deeds that he did?
Oh, does that work, does it?
Apparently so, yeah. It doesn't explain the face paint, but...
Okay.
So here we go.
These boats get a shitload of coverage. They get a shitload of coverage in this movie, so they were definitely trying to shill this stuff. And obviously we've got to talk about Andrew Brynarski as Zangief. Yeah. Who delivers some of the best stuff. But he's made this career of playing really dumb characters, right? And because obviously he played Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in 2003. Mm-hmm. But he also played Butterfinger in Hudson Hawk, right? And then in this, he's supposed to be this really dumb character who's doing all of this shit for free. And he can't even do a thumbs up gesture. It has to come out at the side. So it's like, I don't know how they kind of explained these characters to these people. Apparently, they gave them like a huge one sheet full of all information, but it's like, who wrote that information? Because oh, here we go. Look at this effect.
Yeah, the invisible
It's
boat.
invisible, but it's not invisible. No. Stock footage of a telescope there, of radar.
Yeah, because some of the characters don't really make sense compared to their game counterpart. And I think probably the biggest, the most obvious kind of mismatch, I actually think, is Ryu. Because in this, he's pretty much an Asian American counterpart to Ken. Whereas in the game, he's very, very stoic. He's focused almost entirely on the craft of fighting. Very little to no sense of humor. Yeah. And he's just incredibly focused.
Yeah. It's bizarre, the invisible boat. Oh my god.
Did you want to briefly touch on the animated movie?
No. I want to preserve that as something that you should see if you like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I think you should also see this just because I think you do need to see it. But also, what I do want to touch on is that a year prior to this movie was made, in Hong Kong, they made a movie called Future Cops, which I'm sure you've heard about, being a gamer, which was the unauthorized adaptation of Street Fighter 2. They basically just ended up changing the names and the appearances slightly. And obviously that drew a lot of influence on the game, whereas this movie was really patterned by Steven D'Souza on war movies. Star Wars was an influence. James Bond movies was an influence. And when you kind of look at it, really, Damon Chapper, who plays Ken Masters, originally turned this movie down. But it was another case of his son was a fan of the game, and he saw this as a chance to work with our man there, Raul Julia, who is an amazingly respected actor.
Oh, he was incredibly respected.
Kiss of the Spider Woman, Romero, Tequila Sunrise. He was an amazing actor. And obviously, most people know him as Gomez Adams in the mainstream, but he was a very serious actor. And some people see it as, oh my God, the last thing he did was M. Bison. But it's something he really enjoyed doing, even though he was terminally ill. He was bringing his family to set every day. They're helping him through it, and his kids who love Street Fighter got to see him as M. Bison. It's kind of sweet in that nature.
Yeah. It's just a pity that if you are going to have something as your final movie, that it was this. Really.
I love that ad-libbed line he just gave Sagan. You didn't see this, did you?
Yeah.
Apparently that was ad-libbed. But I always think that how awesome this movie would have been if that eye patch on Sagat just moved eyes every other scene.
Yeah, just like the hump and on, what's his name, in Young Frankenstein.
Yeah. One scene, it could be just dead center in his head and both eyes are on show.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
Didn't you have an eye patch? What eye patch? That kind of thing.
Yes.
There's your...
the game console.
The game
from
the arcade system. Yep.
Just a nice little throw in there. We also want to talk about Gran Bush. I was about to say this a moment ago, but it's not the first time he's actually played a boxer, because he was the boxer in that episode of Police Squad.
Yes, he was. The champ.
Yeah, the champ. Was it? Every time he was coming out with he was trying to do a Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. Was it roses are red, violets are blue? We're going to box.
Sugar is sweet.
I'm going to break your face.
Yeah, I'll break your face. But he'd come out with these Muhammad Ali-isms where he's talking about kind of nursery rhymes and stuff like that, and he'd end it with a line of violence.
Yeah.
But as we were mentioning about Hasbro handling the toy line, and the toys were terrible.
Oh, they were. They fell apart so easily because the tops and the bottoms were basically held together by an elastic band.
Yeah, it was the classic G.I. Joe toys that break within a day.
Yeah.
But I noticed something interesting when I was looking up before, because I was looking at pictures of Street Fighter and things like that. And I remember the picture of Guile's action figure Looked a bit like Ron Perlman with the Guile haircut. Right? It looked nothing like Van Damme. And then I saw a picture of Van Damme's stunt double in this movie and realised, holy shit, it's actually a figure of him. Because he looked just like the action figure.
Right, I haven't seen his stunt double.
Oh no, there is a picture of them both standing together. You'll see it, and it does actually look like him. And I think we've also got to admit that Stephen Lang was actually the producer's first choice for Bison.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He seems to basically
he
be
would have been a better choice.
In terms of an actual character, yes.
Yeah.
In terms of the performance, no, not a chance. This movie basically lives for me because of Raul Julia's performance in it.
Yes, yeah, I'll admit that. Okay, so here we have Blanca, who has now broken free. Jason Momoa. It's a completely different actor from the Brazilian/Australian guy who was playing him.
So yeah, it's a definite Incredible Hulk moment then, isn't it? You got Bill Bixby,
Yes.
you got Lou Ferrigno.
You pretty much got the whole cast. This was actually a set. You see that tower thing there?
Yep.
And this is going to get into the story of how the fire started, which we will come to in just a moment. The temple explosion. Yes, that must have been really fun for them. So now we're getting into the kind of action here.
Approaching the denouement.
That was the kind of reverse Hurricane Rana there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can forgive all of the movies that are now doing it. Have you just opened another beer?
I have opened another beer, yes. You don't think I'm doing this sober, do you?
Oh no, I've just been drinking water. I've been fine. There's Simon Callow on obviously one of the pickups because it's like, oh, we paid for him. We might as well get him to deliver one or two more lines.
They probably filmed that in the car on the way to the airport. And just like, oh, Simon, we just need you to do a quick scene. Okay, just do it in the car as you're driving me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can tell, if you look really closely enough, this is definitely a set because
it's tiny.
It's tiny. It looks fake. And, parts of it kind of just look like it's polystyrene or something.
What's weird in that shot is Guile pulls the legs out from underneath someone and then kind of smacks him in the middle of the back. And then the next shot, he's unconscious.
Yes.
Do many people get knocked unconscious if you hit them in the back? Is that a thing?
I don't know. Anytime if I've ever hit anyone in the back, I'm pretty sure they've never gone unconscious.
No, they usually go, oh, fucking help me back! Oh!
Random tarantula shot there.
Yep.
Not explained and never played off again. I think it was just something that was just lying around. Let's get a tarantula shot in. So we have Guile now coming down here, giving one of his lines saying he's too old for this shit.
Pretty much.
A nice lethal weapon throw there. Then we have, of course, the people we've forgotten about.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on the fact that we haven't even touched on the actual plot of this movie with the fact that all these guys are going into Bison's headquarters to try and save a bunch of hostages.
No, it's one of those forgotten plot points.
Yeah, you just get so wrapped up in everything else, you actually forget what the whole purpose of it all is.
We've got the great Miguel Nunez there, actor from the Dominican Republic, as well as African-American actor. He did a lot of comedies. He also did the TV series Tour of Duty, which was a favourite of mine.
Miguel Nunez, was he in Joanna Man, or am I thinking of someone else?
He could have been, but I haven't seen that.
No.
That just sounds like one of those movies I wouldn't watch.
I think it's
that
a movie.
Sounds like a cross-dressing comedy. If ever
it
I've
is.
heard one. For God's sake! Seriously,
it's about someone. I think it is about someone who wants to become a basketball player, and he's not allowed to actually play. So he pretends to be a woman and joins like a female basketball team.
So it's basically Shakespeare in Love.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably not in there, but I'm sure that the name sounds so familiar. I'm sure he was. If I'm wrong, then I hold my hands up and apologise. But yeah.
Oh yes. So now the infamous plot of the hostages suddenly coming back into light, and then Van Damme has coincidentally just showed up in the room
Looking for Charlie.
looking for Charlie, because he obviously hasn't had enough this movie. His whole plot line for Guile is looking for Charlie.
I know. Oh,
It writes itself.
it does. I mean, to be fair to Van Damme, he was very, very open about this particular part of his life. And as far as I'm aware, he has cleaned himself up properly.
Yes, yeah, he's a whole different man. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. I want to know how the hell he recognises it's Charlie. Is it the dog tags? It is, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Because
Has he still got them on, though? I can't tell.
he doesn't. He's not even the same actor who was the guy at the beginning who played the Brazilian version. There's no dog tags there.
No.
He basically just called him Charlie. He looks nothing like Charlie. That's just an unpaid extra who had a good build, and he said, "Here, just let's get you in a makeup chair for a couple hours a day and stick this ridiculous ginger wig on you,
Yeah.
and you can be this video game character that has just got everyone's eyes rolling."
What they could have done, and perhaps should have done, is really Blanca looks like the Incredible Hulk. Just basically green skin, a couple of prosthetics put on, and an orange wig. It might have been better if they'd have gone more with the game, kind of bulked him out a bit more, perhaps put some hair down his back, made him a bit more bestial in that way. But I guess they probably didn't have the budget for the makeup.
Yeah. I reckon that was just one of those last-minute decisions where it's like, well, we don't really know how to create Blanca, but hey, it worked for Lou.
Yep, it did.
Let's just paint him green. It helped that the 2 bags of chemicals that were pouring into him was the same colour as his skin and his hair would turn out to be. Is the red or orange plasma, and it's just green paint.
Oh, and there he goes chewing the scenery again.
He's Richard III ingot. This is it.
Oh, totally. Just properly hamming it up.
So here we have a bit more. He hasn't started going bald or anything yet. I'm kind of wondering where the scene where he actually started tearing his hair out would have been, because towards the end when the place is blowing up.
It doesn't fit in with the timeline, does it? Because he should really be bald now.
Yeah.
He should be bald now, just basically, I've been tearing my hair out trying to keep him good, or whatever. But no, he just shows up again in about 10 minutes' time. Shaved head. Right.
So here we have everyone gathering to see all of these extras for the day, supposedly getting killed by the big green monster, whilst strangely enough the main cast members just watch. Surely they should be in there as well.
There were 3 characters from the very first Street Fighter game, which isn't worth playing unless you're interested in kind of like game history. It's terrible, terrible game. There were 3 characters that made it into Street Fighter 2. There was Ken and Ryu and Sagat. And in a few minutes, you get to see Sagat with his shirt off, and he's got a scar across his chest, and that scar was given by Ryu.
Yes.
Dragon punching him. And throughout the next few games, they were antagonistic to each other, and then I think in the recent one, or I think it was Street Fighter 4, actually, they've now become a bit more friendlier.
I'm sorry, I'm just absolutely buzzing at the fact that all of Bison's guys couldn't even shoot into a hole of hostages. They were hitting the closing doors that were coming, while it was still a massive gap. They've not shot anyone yet.
I know.
Not one bad guy has shot anyone. I wouldn't even bother with the guns, lads.
He takes cover in front of a wall, not behind a wall, in front of a wall, and the bad guy still can't hit him.
Yes. And look, you've got an entire army of guys. There's about 30 guys here now shooting at just Kylie and T-Hawk.
It reminds me of that scene in Hot Shots 2 where Charlie Sheen's just shooting into a crowd of oncoming bad guys, and they're just one after another just dropping like flies and into a great big pile of bodies on the floor.
Yeah. And now here we have everyone's just completely going for it. We're now going to get the infamous E-Honda Zangief fight we've all been waiting for.
E-Honda's got his top off now.
And we are soon going to be witness to one of the most racist moments in a PG movie you will ever get to see.
Yeah.
That involves Ken Sawada. I'm sure Ken Sawada would have seen this scene and said, "You what?" Would have been, "You what?" Kono, you cannot put this. It is offensive to my country.
We're probably gonna get so much stick for all the Ken Sawada bashing that we're doing in this one.
I love Ken Sawada. I have grown to really appreciate this guy. So here's where they go. They slam through the tarpaulin floor.
Yeah. Which all of a sudden has gone, you know, you can fall through it.
Of course, why not? And then it's a case of everyone just branch out and go and fight the people that you kind of matched up with in the movie. It'll work out nicely that way. These bad guys have shot absolutely nobody.
Little touch that you might not have noticed is on the there was a plunger earlier that he was used to set off an alarm system, and on the computer monitor there, they're actually using Esperanto as opposed to any actual language. Well, any actual native language, I should say.
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting fact I hadn't considered.
Well, yes, there you go.
Oh, and here we go. All the guys in blue helmets finally show up for the big showdown at the end. But it's all right, because Van Damme's taken out every single person with a machine gun so far.
And we just had kind of a hurricane spin kick from Ryu.
Yep.
Little one.
Now,
Back spin kick.
Now, here we go. This is going to be centered around the explosion of this temple, which happens... Oh, actually, no.
It's a little bit later, yeah, because they're all trying to escape.
The story
Spoiler
is worth it. I will get the story out in a little while. But some extra kind of little things here that we just kind of have to mention. As we're going to see the Ryu Vega rematch in just a moment. There's DJ being the smartest person in the movie by just leaving and managing to...
He actually is the smartest person in the movie, isn't he?
Yes.
He's just like
He's
looking out for himself. Paid. Yeah. Well, kind of.
Yes. So here's the bit now. Oh, Ken's going to run out, but Ryu's suddenly grown a conscience and he's going to stay. So we obviously know what's going to happen on this bit. But did you kind of know that this movie does actually hold a record?
No. Well, it's one of those. I know that it does, but it's a fact that's buried so deep in my brain, I'll be damned if I can pull it out. What is the record?
Okay. This movie holds the record for the biggest one-day drop in box office take-ins in history.
Oh, seriously?
Yes. This movie opened at 3.1 million on its first night. Okay? Which is impressive.
Yeah.
You know, for 1994. The next day, 1.7 million.
Oof. Ow.
Oh, that must have been quite a hard pill to swallow for pretty much everyone.
Okay. Go and pull your knife out, Van Damme.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
This is the... this was a play on another movie. I can't remember what it was. But
yeah, I know. I've seen it myself.
This has been done in a movie before. And it's a very obvious play on it, but the fact that we can't remember what it was. And he turns around and naturally all these guys are there. He's thinking that his knife has basically scared them away. It hasn't. Nice little laugh for the kids. They would have loved it.
Yeah, and right now there's going to be people listening to this going, "It was this movie, you idiots!"
Well, let us know in the comments section.
Yeah. Or hop over to Facebook, Twitter, all the rest of it. You know by now.
So was this the first kind of selfie with a camera that M. Bison was taking here? Because all his other men have been killed by their own weapons so far.
Yeah, it does raise a question, and you raised it earlier. Who is operating all these cameras?
Yeah, there's no men left. There's only M. Bison.
Do you think that there is someone just off to one side with kind of like a luminous jacket which says press or cameraman, and everyone's just told, don't shoot this guy?
There's Raul Julia giving it swivel eye lunacy.
Oh, yes, the swiveliest.
So apparently with, that's a stand-in. You can tell a mile away. That's not Raul Julia. But I believe that they filmed all of his fight stuff first. So all of this fight stuff was between Van Damme and Raul Julia here was actually filmed right at the front of the movie, I believe. And then everyone else's fight scenes were much later.
Yeah, because he had kind of like a downturn and then briefly came back up, so it was just tough to keep track of.
Hey, look at that! Captain Sawada got a few punches in there.
Yeah,
worth every penny.
And right there in that scene, he looks like he can actually act properly.
Yes, because he's not talking dub.
Yeah,
and here we go, the most racist scene that they could possibly give to a bunch of Japanese actors by having a giant Godzilla riff. They're even looking at the screen saying, what in the hell have we signed up for?
Complete with the Godzilla sound effects as well. How much do you think they had to pay Toho to use those sound effects?
Oh my god. I'm surprised at some point, there wasn't a Godzilla statue in the background.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in M. Bison's love case. Like in Kentucky Fried Movie, where he's got the golden Godzilla.
Yeah.
I reckon he's got just a gigantic Godzilla vibrator or something.
A Godzilla vibrator.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to know. The sad thing is...
Makes genuine sound effects.
Oh, that is putting...
Makes it echo. Oh, God. So I've sat through this movie. I had to have some smut in it. Okay, so yes, the fight scene here, obviously we've got a double.
Yep.
Because a lot of the shots you can see here are not showing Raul Julia's face. It's Chun-Li or Balrog's getting his punches in. There we go.
And the wind-up spin.
Yeah, where did he get the boxing gloves from?
Well, they are in a dojo. They're going through like the Bison Troopers kind of dojo area, so he probably picked them up.
Oh, right.
There's kind of like an attempt at Guile's inverted kick. Yeah. There is his actual, I think it's the hurricane kick.
There it is. Yeah. Twice. Yep. There we go. In case you missed it the first time. Oh, look, he's been kicked to the back of the head. He's surely going to be dead.
He should have been punched in the back. He would have been knocked out.
Oh, there we go. We're now getting him electrocuted. Raul Julia acting full Richard III of being electrocuted by falling onto a console.
It's like watching Ian McKellen being in the Chuckle Brothers, isn't it?
Well, there's an opening.
It really is. Yeah. Right. We have taken the piss out of Sawada's delivery throughout this. Yes. Okay. Because, let's be honest, he's not a native speaker, but right now, we have Jean-Claude Van Damme, who also isn't a native English speaker, but speaks it very, very well, who's about to deliver the worst stuttering paused of a reaction. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And he is alive. Do not fear. Raul Julia is just using superconductive
electromagnetism.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Here we go. DJ showing why he is the smartest guy. He picks up this huge chunk of, it's huge chest of what he believes is money.
Yeah.
But
Pity it's not.
That little plot point from earlier on.
Yeah.
Where he was actually in the room where the Bison dollars were in that chest, and suddenly he's forgotten that the Bison dollars are in the same chest that he steals. Ken seems to want this really tacky vase.
God knows why.
So we've got a very early touchscreen here. Very good.
Right down at the bottom there, yeah, Communica. There's
This is the first actual attempt of stationary cameras in a fortress, when every other camera in the movie has been like someone holding it.
Yeah, there's no panning in this one. There's no zooms or anything.
So someone actually knew what they were doing with this scene. And here we have Damon Chapper not being able to pronounce the name Ryu or Ryu. He calls it Ryu.
I think there was some discussion when they were making it as to what it was supposed to be, and it is Ryu.
Right.
And I love that shot right there of Vega just kind of putting the mask onto his face, not putting the straps behind his head to hold it in place. No, just putting the mask onto his face.
It glues to his face.
It like suction cups to it.
But yet again, did you notice, as I said before, he delivered that line of dialogue once the mask was up to his face?
Yep.
So yes, here's our scene now of Raul Julia. He actually starts levitating.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the point where I think my mother and my stepfather were watching this movie with me, and they just shook their heads and tutted. And it was like, this is the point where we lost you? You were incredibly patient for the last 80 minutes.
Yeah, but it's right to the game. He does a lot of moves which involve him kind of flying across the screen.
Yeah. And now we have here, obviously, the very big references to Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Where it comes to Ryu and Vega.
I mean, he's even got the claws on his hand.
Yes. And he has pretty much the same scar marks that Bruce Lee had in Enter the Dragon as well, from those claw marks. So it's very well done, though. I've got to admit, I do like the Vega character. I think it was criminally underused in this movie.
Yeah,
because he had the right look.
He looks perfect. I think probably out of all of the characters, that is just the closest to the video game counterpart. The tattoo, the braided hair, the chiseled physique. He looks fantastic.
The best thing about The Legend of Chun-Li is their version of Vega in it. I have got to admit, I really did like it. And he is just a lethal, silent assassin in it. He is the best thing in a movie that has Chris Klein and Michael Clark Duncan and playing these roles.
And just during that little fight there between Ryu and Vega, he did a little double palm forward, and there was a flash of light.
Yes,
just like the fireball.
And the kind of interesting thing here is, you get one more little line of dialogue from Vega there saying "die," but it's funny that Damon Chapper and Wes Studi, Sagat and Ken Masters, respectively, are the only two people from the entire cast who have military records for real.
Yes.
So Damon Chapper was in the Navy. Which is why you probably also see him in Under Siege as well, which seems to get mentioned on our show pretty much every other week.
We're going to have to do one of these to Under Siege, aren't we?
Yeah, Under Siege 2 especially. Wes Studi was in the Army National Guard, and he was actually a Vietnam veteran also.
So, yeah.
So they were paired off against each other in the movie, and everyone else didn't have a military record or any kind of service record whatsoever. But it'd be interesting. I bet there was a real bit of competitive spirit between the two of them, because it's Navy and Army, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, because all the people in the Army think that the Navy are wimps, and, the Navy probably think bad of the Army as well, because I think that's just the way that most military forces do. The one you were in is the best, regardless of any evidence to the contrary.
Yes. This is. I would love to have seen the actual reactions to Raul Julia when they say, "We're going to have you flying" at the end of this movie, delivering this scene-chewing stuff and swivel-eyed lunacy. And
as I beheld Satan as he fell from heaven.
yes, and then just gets kicked into a TV.
Yeah.
So yes, we are rapidly approaching the infamous temple explosion, which we will kind of cover. But now it's time for everyone to kind of reunite.
Yeah.
Finally rescued the hostages. I'm telling you, the filmmakers forgot about these guys.
They did. It was probably in dailies. They probably got to the end and thought, "Oh wait, we forgot to mention those sausages. We're going to have to do some pickups."
Yes. Chun-Li was crying with joy there that the movie's finally ending. They're just going to run past E. Honda and Zangief, who are still fighting. And then he just says, "See ya," and leaves him.
And the face on, the blood on his face kind of looks like his in-game makeup as well.
Yeah, that's true. And then we spot DJ, who is still hauling this box through this temple. Obviously, we've got to make it very clear that all of the blue helmets have escaped, and I don't think one of them got shot in the entire movie. Plenty of red helmets going on. So now we reveal here that DJ may have been the only person in this entire operation who got paid.
Yeah.
And it's such a shock to Andrew Brynarski as Zangief that he actually could have got paid. Yeah. Which is what I'm sure some of the extras on this movie
you got
suddenly
paid?
Found out. Wouldn't it be funny if that was an actual jab at all of the extras who didn't get paid and were just doing it for experience?
Yeah, I know all about doing work on movies and not getting paid, but that's a story for another time.
Well, you get a free DVD or 12.
Yeah.
So, no, obviously, the other plot point that they've already kind of forgotten about here is that Blanca is still there. And whilst everyone else is escaping, and obviously we have a little bit of girl power moment over bunches in the hair. So they're all escaping the infamous trapdoor, which then suddenly they're all rescued by Zangief, who decides, well, I could have been paid, but now I'm just going to help the bad guys I've been trying to kill for an entire movie.
Yeah.
Get out of this door. And then DJ escapes out of a nifty little escape hatch with Sagat in tow. How many of these bloody hostages have got?
I don't know. Yet? There weren't that many in the pit.
They just found they've been running around in circles.
Oh, here we go.
Here he is
with the shaved head.
So he's lost his hair.
Yeah,
he's got undressed for some strange reason. For some reason, his shirt's gone and his pants are torn. They weren't anything like that in the last scene.
No, unless there must have been a deleted scene where Dalsim kind of does like the stretchy stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's apparently he tears the hair out of his head, which is why his head's bleeding. Okay. And now, you've got everything kind of blowing up and Bison's still hanging there. But there is no real reason behind that. So it's obviously just one of those things they've cut out.
Not at all.
Maybe them pulling his own hair out was a bit extreme for a PG-13, maybe.
All right, there is the explosion. The temple is going up.
Okay.
So fill us in.
Now let's tell the story. So it was obviously an exterior set, and only 25% of this set was supposed to blow up. It's mainly because safety reasons, because as you've seen in that scene, a lot of the key cast were around it on the actual shot that it was supposed to do. So it was only supposed to be 25% of this set that blew up. But naturally, it kind of got out of hand, and the whole set went up in flames. It cost $240,000 of damage.
Ooh, ouch.
And the shot ended up in the movie, so that's the one thing. So, yes, it was one of the last major disasters in Thailand. And then, obviously, we've got to do a huge kind of payoff here. We discover, to nobody's secret, well, no one's surprised but DJ, apparently, that the chest contains Bison dollars.
Yeah.
The exact same Bison dollars in the exact same chest that he handed to Sagat earlier on in the movie. And the fact that Sagat even didn't realise it was the exact same box that was handed to him earlier.
Well, I guess he didn't see that, did he?
No, he did not.
One thing I have just noticed is they were taking all of the Bison troopers away, and yet Zangief there was one of Bison's right-hand men, and he's just stood with the main cast.
Yes.
He's not even, being clapped in irons or anything. He's just stood there with them.
And look at this, you've got all of the main characters all coming together now. None of the extras or anything. Sawada's kind of fudged his way in there to be with them. So it's like, oh, we're crying because this movie is over.
Yeah.
But, they're all genuinely all happy, and it's the moment, how about you guys come back for the sequel?
No.
No.
I'm washing my hair.
No, please. I mean, no thanks. Look, I mean, all of them, they're so hopeful. Look at them. They're all like, this movie is going to make a shitload of money. And then, obviously, Zangief's big payoff. Van Damme teaches him how to hold his thumb up the right way.
Properly, yeah.
There's the reveal. The last shot of Raul Julia is on money.
Yeah.
And he's still holding his thumb up. That was obviously an insert shot. I think the shot was supposed to continue.
It probably was.
And they chucked that in there. So now Chun-Li's, trying to get a bit groinal, even though Cammy White's there in the background, who's doing him for real.
Ooh, I wonder if that led to any tension. Probably not, because from what you say, everyone got on really well with Kylie Minogue. But
Yes. And let's pay off by doing the pose.
Yep, there you go. Everyone basically strikes the victory pose.
From the game. And that is it.
Yeah.
There's 35 million down the
Vaya
swing.
con Dios.
So, yeah. You know what? And there you go. Charles Pacerni gets his name right under there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean that is Street Fighter. It's baffling.
It really is, because it's one of those movies that it should not have been made. When you actually see the movie, you struggle to understand just how someone could have signed off on all of this stuff. Oh, actually, there, AN Soldiers, second name down, David D. D'Souza.
Ah, well, nepotism rules.
Yeah, no.
You're
going to get in there some way. But yeah, it's one of those movies which shouldn't work. There is nothing in this movie that should work. Nothing in this should have actually been made. But yeah, everything... Capcom, signed off on it.
Capcom loved this movie.
Yeah.
They thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it's like, never mind Van Damme, how much coke were you on?
Yeah.
Because that was just ridiculous.
No. I would like to say one thing, though, as we head straight into the credits, and we're seeing lots of D'Souza names pop up.
Oh my God, Brian Cox was in the movie as a special effects supervisor.
He was there looking at the stars, thinking how they could influence him. Different Brian Cox, by the way.
Yeah.
But
I have different Brian Cox in mind.
I do want to say one thing. We have ripped on this movie a bit, but like we said earlier, I do actually genuinely, unironically love this film. So I do want to give a great big thank you to everyone that worked on it for just producing this marvelous piece of schlocky entertainment that has just kept me happy throughout the years. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm actually going to say thanks to Steven D'Souza. For the main reason being, I mean, he really fought to just have 7 main characters in this movie. And that's when he talked to Capcom, it was a case of, he wants to focus on 7 so the audience can keep track. And it's the golden rule in filmmaking when it comes to working on ensemble movies. 7, 7 samurai, 7 dwarfs. It's easier to kind of keep the lucky number 7. Yeah. And Capcom agreed to it. And then they just started sneaking, 2 more. Oh, and then 2 more. And then 2 more. And they meticulously worked their characters in over time to the point where you just had to accept it. And that is why a lot of these characters are just like extended cameos.
I think they did a better job with it than they did with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. That was terrible for just shoehorning characters in with no actual connection to the plot.
Filming yourself taking a shit is doing better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yeah. It is just one of the worst things I think I've ever seen. I felt so sorry for a majority of that cast.
Yep.
Some of them probably listening, but yeah, you did a great job considering you know what was going on with that movie. Well, yeah, fine. You've got me through Street Fighter, and it's not as bad as I guess I probably remember it was. But I guess I have got to tell you how I lost 78 quid on this movie.
Go on, hit us with the £78 story.
I was so expecting this movie to be the greatest thing ever because I was a Street Fighter fan. This also coincides with how my love of Street Fighter died. But it turned out that I wanted this movie as soon as it was being released on video. And there was a video store in town. I was like, when Street Fighter comes out, can I buy a copy of the rental copy as soon as you get them in? And the fucker charged me £78 for it. Right? Which I found out years later, because I was a teenager. I was only like 14 or something like that. Maybe 15. And I found out later that they buy them in bulk really cheaply and get their money back on the rentals. So that fucker basically bought his entire Street Fighter rental collection with money that I paid him for one copy. Right? So yeah, I was pissed off about it, and that has always left this really dark thing. I got the movie, and then I sat and watched it, and then I was like, I paid a shitload of money for this, and I don't know how I'm ever going to recover from that. But yes,
but the phrase "saw you coming" springs to mind.
It did, but I mean, the good news is I got a free copy of the soundtrack on CD as well. And if anyone's heard the soundtrack from this movie, that's probably worse than the actual movie.
Yeah, we just had a few things.
Horrible song that's being played over the credits called "Why Tell Me Why" by Chage Aska. Fuck. Anyway, that's my story, and that's Street Fighter for this week. So. I guess it wasn't that bad. It was a unique episode, I guess. Gotta admit, it could have been better with Deep Rising, though.
Well, we'll have to do Deep Rising next time, unless we put it to a vote and something else takes its place. We'll just have to see. But before we go, we should have one last scene.
Oh shit! I hope it's not on my version. Oh, it is. There we go. We are actually watching this separate in two separate houses, by the way, I will admit. And I do have this end scene, which is doing the carry moment that has been seen in every kind of movie around this era to say the villain will be back. We're going to have his hand come out of the ground, a load of rubble.
Tools, options, world domination, replay.
Yes, and we ended up with The Legend of Chun-Li decades later.
That was Street Fighter. That was 1 hour and 42 minutes of bad dialogue, cheesy acting, and just, it should not have been made. But we're also very, very glad that it did, because it was able to give us such joy. And we hope that you've had such joy watching it this afternoon as well.
I'm just kind of hoping that you're still here, because we gave up Nominate 5 for this shit.
Oh, no.
Right? No Nominate 5 this week. But it's strange kind of revisiting this movie, because I have not seen this since, it must have been the mid-2000s when I kind of accidentally came across. No, I didn't. That's a complete lie. I didn't accidentally come across this at all. I watched it because of, as I kind of mentioned when we were watching the movie, the scenes here that were originally cut out by the BBFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was determined when it was finally properly released to see what the hell would the BBFC cut out of this, and what have they left us with, and as you can see, it was very small stuff.
Yeah,
but my God, That's something that deserves to be put into a box and blown up.
Yeah, but now, like Andy said, we have no Nominate 5 this week, so I guess we've only got one thing left to ask, right?
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
I would have been happier if another movie was in the box other than when we cracked open Street Fighter, to be honest.
The die is cast, the job is done. Now nothing to do except to wash the blood off our hands.
And at least it wasn't The Legend of Chun-Li.
No. Not even I, as a video game fan, decided to watch that one. I thought, nope, staying well clear.
It might go in the alternative box. But anyway, while I'm going for a rummage here, what's in the box, Steve?
What's in the box is the point of the show where Andy tries to improve my movie education by getting me away from such fodder as Street Fighter and trying to get me towards films which are more widely and critically accepted. So he's going to pull out the name of a film from the box, which is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. If I haven't seen it, then I go away and watch it the night before we record our next episode. If I have seen it, then we keep going through the box until we find one that I haven't seen. Easy.
Simple.
So much so, even I can understand it.
Exactly. Okay. You're going to war this week.
Oh,
so
God,
obviously, if Street Fighter wasn't enough to whet your war whistle, see, I managed to get that out. You're going back to Iwo Jima, my friend, because if you've not seen Clint Eastwood's Flags of Our Fathers, that is what you are watching.
I have not seen Flags of Our Fathers, but I also know that there's a second one, isn't there?
Called Letters from Iwo Jima, which I was actually planning to pull out of the box the week afterwards if you hadn't seen this. But You know what? Now that you're such a smart ass, you can watch both of them.
All right, then. Well, we'll watch Flags of Our Fathers this week and Letters from Iwo Jima next week.
No, you won't. No. Just for pulling that up, you've got to watch both of them this week.
That's not in the rules. That's not in the rules.
Well, I rewrote the rules because it's my game. So basically,
right, that's it, is it?
No, I'm allowed to alter the rules if it plays out. I've got another one I'm going to alter down the line at some point. But Flags of Our Fathers and Letters of Iwo Jima actually do go together because one is told from the American side of the conflict and the other is told from the Japanese side. So effectively, it's one movie kind of split into two. And I don't think you'd have the same effect if you watched them weeks apart. And I'd be interesting to see what your take on both sides is, to see which one you preferred. So, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima.
There's foul play going on here and I don't like it.
But I've just had to sit through that shit for an hour and a half.
Oh, come on, you loved it.
I gleaned enjoyment out of it, although when I listen back on it, I'm probably going to hear myself crack at a couple of points.
Very probably.
Yeah, we can shake the rule box for a week and see what letters fall out.
All right.
The letters this week say F and L, Flags of Our Fathers, and Letters from Iwo Jima. And we look forward to hearing Steve's feedback on both movies next week.
Yes, well, I do present my feedback on both movies. If you'd like to write in and tell Andy that he's being an arsehole, then you can do by joining us on Facebook or Twitter, both at Poddywood. You can follow us on Reddit at the subreddit r/Poddywood, or just send us a carrier pigeon, whichever.
Or just do what everyone else does. Call me an arsehole on Facebook, like the complete gutless, spineless coward you are.
Yes. But I think that's it for today, don't you?
Yeah, short and sweet.
Yeah.
I'm glad this week's over, to be honest. I want to get back to some kind of normality after the pressure of this week and getting this episode together. You know, for those people who may think, oh, well, you know, this episode wasn't as eventful because they didn't have a guest. Go screw yourselves. You have no idea the pain that we went through to get this right this week.
Oh, the pain of it all.
And we have a guest back next week, so
yes,
don't worry about it.
Who's it going to be? Well, you just have to tune in and find out.
Yes. Like we do.
You think we know anything about this shit? No, we don't. Right. So for now, though, it's been goodbye from me.
And it's a see you later from me.
Ciao.
My crumpet looks like a batarang.